Tailored suits. It's brought to you by Quality Tire. 10 locations across Saskatchewan. QualityTire.ca. Suits, what's up?
Well, I've been listening in all day, DT, and I've got an idea for this Briar bet you're looking at.
Okay. Now, all right.
Okay. So full disclosure, I don't really know the whole field and all of that. I'm not going to pretend to know it all, but
It's even better for me. All right. Perfect.
Okay. I will take, if you'll go for it, I will take Brad Gushu and Team Sask. You get the rest of the field.
Oh my goodness. So you get Gushu, the 3 times in the last 4 years champion, and Saskatchewan, and I get the field. So
you get the rest of the field.
Oh, wow. Are you giving me any odds on that, or are we taking that straight up?
Well, I can negotiate. We can.
Honestly, I'd probably take. I'll take that. I'll take that straight up. I hate to, since already on the side I made a wager on Saskatchewan. I don't feel too bad about that.
Right.
So you have Gushu, Dunstone, and I get the other 16 rinks.
You get the rest of the field, and
Wow.
we'll play for a shot of my friend Jack Daniels. He's a good friend.
Mitchell, who's got the best of this one in your mind? He's really thinking about this. This is
You do.
I think
You do.
Because I get Cooey, I get Epping, I get Jacobs.
You get your boy Botcher.
I get Botcher, who's been to the final 3 years in a row. I get Howard / Madaw, whatever that's going to be. That's a solid wager, Suits.
Okay,
That's
buddy.
all right.
We'll play for dinner. You got it.
Beautifully done. Beautifully done.
Wait a minute. Whoa. A minute ago, it was a shot of Jack Daniels, and now it's dinner. That sort of escalated very quickly.
Yeah.
Well, Jack Daniels is the appetizer.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm a super lightweight at the drinking, so I need some food to absorb it. So I like this. I like this. Hey, Suits, let's talk about all these NFL players in Toronto. Dave Naylor has a piece at tsn.ca about it, and it's overall, hey, the success of big name American players coming to Canada to play in the CFL isn't great, and Naylor's got some reasons why. When you reflect on big time American players coming up to the CFL, what's your lasting impression?
Generally speaking, it hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked. And I think my theory on it is that the players that come up just don't have their head right, don't have their mind right. They're not ready to sort of come up and respect the new league, earn the respect of their new teammates, and then, do their thing on the field. I think when you look at NFL players coming up, and Toronto's, this team has loaded up on them this year. Mike Pinball Clemens did it back when he was a coach with the Argos back years ago. He sort of had a similar philosophy. There's part of the pie graph when you look at it is, of course, your resume in college, your testing scores, what you've done in the National Football League. All of that is part of the process of evaluation. But I think the bigger slice of that pie-shaped graph is your motivation going in, and are you willing to earn the respect of your new teammates and not walk in to think you're just going to dominate by showing up because you played in the NFL. And I think that happens to a lot of guys, not necessarily even their fault. They just think that they're going to come up and breeze through the Canadian Football League, and they just don't. And somehow we as fans, we really don't sort of, or maybe the media as well, don't learn from history when we look at this.
Right.
I guess we could make this point about a lot of things right now. We need to learn more from history, but because it is such an inexact science when it comes to talent evaluation. I mean, even for the best scouts in the world, for every first round draft pick that is successful in the NFL, there are a ton of first round draft picks that are flops in the NFL.
Yeah.
Ryan Leaf, Jamarcus Russell. I mean, I can name a bunch. And then you can go the opposite way and say all these professional NFL scouts picked Tom Brady in the 6th round. Russell Wilson, I think, was a 3rd round draft pick.
Dak Prescott, super low, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Roger Staubach went 129th in round 10. Tony Romo wasn't even drafted. And there's a ton of those stories. So, again, I think if you bring a player in or an owner or a coach because of their talents and that they are motivated to earn the respect of your teammates, all of those test scores and resumes and things are going to be helpful. They get you in the door. But if you bring them in for those motivations, you got a chance to win. If you're bringing them in for celebrity because they made a lot of money, because they might sell tickets, it just doesn't work. It just hasn't worked in the past. I don't think it'll work again in the future. Take a look at some of these guys if they're in the right age group, but bringing them in for celebrity or that they made a lot of money or that they just played in the NFL and you're stamping that on their backside, that's not going to help you win.
Glenn, I agree with what you say. Can I add the fact that maybe these players look at the CFL as easy, and when they get up here, they find out it isn't easy with the 12th man, the wider field, the quality of Canadian players? I just take a look at guys, and I'm just going to use the Riders as an example. A few years ago, they had Dwayne Jarrett come up here. He couldn't handle it. Lima Swede came up here, couldn't handle it. We'll never know what Vince Young would have done because he hurt his hamstring, but I don't think Vince Young would have been what everybody thought he was going to be. I just wonder if a lot of these players realize how good the CFL is until they get up here and then go, oh man, I'm in over my head, for reasons that you just sort of gave.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, all you have to do is don't listen to my opinion on this. Listen to Doug Flutie's opinion or Warren Moon's opinion or guys that have played in both leagues. I remember sitting at one time after a game, we were losing to Edmonton, and I was sitting on the bench right beside Barry Wilburn. I got a chance to play with Wilburn. He was great defensive back who had 2 picks for Washington in the Super Bowl, came to Canada, was an outstanding man-to-man cover guy. We're sitting beside each other, and he said, man, this league is so good. It is so talented. Nobody understands it. Nobody gets it. He said, I can look at all of this roster and pick a whole bunch of these guys that could be playing in the NFL right now. So, yeah, the NFL has some of the best football players and the best talent in the entire world, for sure. But you can take 95% of the rosters in both leagues and really interchange a lot of those players. I mean, watch the play. Don't follow the ball, but watch the play of the Kansas City Chiefs. If you got that Super Bowl on tape, watch the play of their defensive backs again. They were awful. Yeah. I mean, it was just a bad game from great players. If you played in pro football, you're a great player, but they're not this other level of quality. And players that come up from the United States find that out very quickly. Some of them don't want to admit it later, but most of them will tell you. Warren Moon has always been a great ambassador. So is Doug Flutie, saying, man, the talent in the CFL should be respected.
Absolutely with you. When I wonder, like, Toronto is signing up Shane Ray, former first-round pick. Sean Oakman, undrafted, maybe unrelated to problems he was having legally at the time, which have since been cleared up. Martavis Bryant, Kendall Wright, guys who have played down there. It makes me think, okay, it makes me think if I was an agent, how badly I want my guy drafted in the first round, because you're then forever first rounder in the NFL, Shane Ray. And that unfortunately/fortunately sticks to a guy. Well, you're a first rounder, you should keep getting these opportunities. But then on the other side, you're a first rounder, you should be better than this, when that might have been the only team that thought they were anywhere remotely connected to the first round. Josh Rosen, 10th overall, going to be on his 4th NFL team. I feel like these guys get the benefit and get the stab in the back of wherever they were picked, wherever they were judged in that one moment of time, when honestly you're going from U Sports, CFL, NCAA, NFL, you're going from a totally different game to another totally different game with totally different athletes.
Yeah, and a lot of the fundamentals are similar, but the game and the rules different. The wide field, you have to condition.
What's open is different, right?
Right. Yeah.
college to the pros, what's an open receiver? You know well from your days. What was open for you at Simon Fraser versus what was open in the CFL? Different.
Yeah, and with those different rules, you have to condition differently as an athlete, and you have to, be maybe a little bit lighter. You see that all the time when guys go from the CFL down south or the other way. They usually try to lose a little weight when they get up here, or they gain a little weight going the other way.
Yeah.
So I think when you look at the Argos in general right now, and you look at some of those names, again, you talk about the draft picks. It's really about opportunity and what you do with that opportunity. Because those first round draft picks automatically have more pressure on them. That you mentioned the pressure. They get a big paycheck for being a first round pick, but they also get a ton of more doors open. And those doors continue to stay open for 2 or 3 years deep. Whereas a Division III or Division II Mike Riley or Bo Levi Mitchell gets a fraction of the door open, maybe. And if they don't do something spectacular in that little opportunity, they just get passed by. It happens all the time, with Division II and III players down south. So all of which can play in the NFL if given the opportunity, but they just, for whatever reason, some of that is politics and opportunity. And if they take advantage of it.
And that becomes interesting because, as I wrote to myself, when you get a first round guy up to the CFL, an NFL first rounder up to the CFL, that guy has proven he cannot do it at the NFL level because he's gotten every opportunity. Some guys that end up here never got a chance to prove if they could or couldn't do it because they were UDFA. They were a 7th rounder. They were behind, we had 2 guys at my position, so I never got a chance. I'm Stanley Bryant, and I'm ripping the CFL apart at left tackle, right? It's
motivation.
Yeah,
right.
And there's another big part, but some guys have had the opportunity to show and shown they can't do it. Some guys haven't yet had the opportunity to truly show anything, so we don't know what to think of them when they get up here.
Well, let me add this to it, and let me ask you guys. The other side of it is, how much is celebrity important for Canadians versus the U.S. sort of way of thinking? Because I look at examples like when Ricky Williams was signed in his prime with the Argos. That didn't sell a whole lot of extra tickets. I mean, even Flutie and what he was generating. Johnny Manziel really didn't sell all that many more tickets. He created more buzz, for sure, and a lot of articles, and that's good. And I get it. I mean, I'm not saying we don't want to take advantage of any of that, but I think the NFL experiment and playing games in Toronto proved to us that, when it really shakes down, if it's not your own team, is it going to be, worth your dollars? And, we saw that the NFL experiment in Toronto really didn't work. It just didn't work. And then the excuses were, I mean, there were media people, as you remember, DT, saying there's going to be lineups down Yonge Street and all the way around the corner to get these NFL tickets. Well, that didn't happen. They were giving away tickets for the NFL games in Toronto. And then people right after that said, well, that's because it wasn't our own team and it was really, really expensive. And it was. I
think Winnipeg nailed it though with the 80-yard field though. That was the answer. That was the one. They really had that going. It's 5:44. We're gonna duck a break.
No, I was just gonna ask a question to Glenn, but I can wait on the other side though.
Yeah, and on the other side, we're gonna duck into who's had the best offseason so far in the Canadian Football League. Toronto's getting a lot of love, right? Because they've been putting up these names of not even just NFL players, but also big-time CFL players going there as well. We'll pick Suit's brain on who's had the best offseason in the Canadian Football League. Your point about Ricky Williams didn't do much when he got up here. This all fits into my running backs don't matter narrative. Mitchell, please bring it forth.
Glenn, when you finally come back to Regina, can you take DT somewhere like a back alley or something and beat some running back sense into him?
Well, there's some good running backs in the Canadian Football League right now. Yes, and we'll go over those.
We're going to do that at some point. We're going to do the half hour on running backs. I'm going to give my testimony. I'm going to bring Suits on board with me. It's going to be awesome.
I just wanted to go back to when you were talking about Ricky Williams and you were talking about Johnny Manziel. Mm-hmm. When Ricky Williams came into the CFL, I forget who it was, but somebody said, he's going to run for 2,500 yards. He's going to have 20 touchdowns. people didn't know what they were going to get from Johnny Manziel because of his past history.
Mhm.
If Ricky Williams would have come up here and tore this league apart, then that buzz would have been there. There would have been more attention. Same with Johnny Manziel. The fact that these guys don't live up to the expectation that's put on them, and you could maybe put Trent Richardson in that sentence as well.
3 yards
Mhm.
to carry.
Yeah, it could just, again, it shows you, I think, how good this league is, because those that thought that Ricky Williams was going to tear it apart, they found out differently when Ricky got up here, and there's guys up here that can play the game. Like,
Yeah,
how much does that weigh into it when there's so much hype about these guys and they don't live up to it?
Well, I think it does, and I think those guys, you should make note of the fact that Ricky Williams went back to the NFL and had a 1,000-yard season when he returned to the NFL. So he was right in his prime. And, I know there'll be some that argue that that was a one-off, but if the theory that is so much better in the National Football League, the athlete is so much better, the player is so much better, then why don't they all dominate? And when you look, again, if we learn from history, they just don't. Whether they're late in their career, you can make any excuse you want for them, but tell me the last former NFL football player that came up and really dominated in the CFL. I just can't think of it. And then I take a look at a guy like Cody Fajardo or Mike Riley, who had one series in BC, a Division II player, or Bo Levi Mitchell, that had one series in BC to make the roster as a backup to Travis Lulay. And he did it. He scores a touchdown, and then he becomes this championship quarterback that CFL fans love, and a lot of the players down south really respect, including Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
They're best buddies. So yeah, like when you see these examples, I think we just have to, and why do we keep apologizing for our great game? I mean, our game is high quality, tremendous athletes that are committing just as much physically and emotionally and mentally to win a championship as they are in the National Football League to win a championship. The only difference is their paycheck. And if you follow an athlete or a celebrity just because they're a multimillionaire, shame on you, because that's too bad. That has nothing to do with it. That's just, all that is what the market will bear and what the owner is willing to sign. So it has nothing to do with it. I'll wrap it up here, DT, because I know you want to move on. But you walk into any beer league hockey team, you have to earn the respect of your teammates. I don't care what your level of talent is. You have to earn the respect of your teammates at beer league. Now you take that and you make the stakes so much higher when people are playing for their livelihoods.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care how many Heisman trophies you won or how many years you played in the NFL or went to the Pro Bowl. When you get to Canada, you've got to prove yourself and earn the respect of your teammates.
Yeah. To fully have that conversation, we kind of have to figure out, what do we classify as a former NFL player? Does Darrell Walker count as a former NFL player because he tried the NFL, he came here, he went back, he came back. What about Eric Rodgers and his 10 touchdowns in Calgary? It would be interesting to do a kind of a statistical dive into that and find out. Lawrence Phillips didn't work. Ricky Williams didn't work. Michael Sam didn't work. Dexter Manley. Like, we can go through the superstars. But yeah, it gets into, there's way more to football players than just talent. I like talent, but I want guys who want to be here as well. I wanted to do best off seasons, but one thing I want to make sure we don't miss is today, 27 years ago today, John Candy passed away, a guy who was one of the owners of the Toronto Argos. And I remember John Candy for the movies, right? I just saw Brewster's Millions, where he's Richard Pryor's sidekick, and I laughed myself silly again because that movie remains amazing. But it's a guy who is, to some degree, revered among Canadian football fans, John Candy.
He really is. You think back to the 1991 Argo season, and that was the ownership group of Gretzky, the ultimate Canadian in my mind, Gretzky, John Candy, and Bruce McNall. And Bruce McNall had his own issues, but
stealing from everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. And
sure.
that was an issue and a problem. But But when you get to John Candy, and I got a chance to have a conversation with Mr. Candy when he was the owner of the Argos. I was still playing in Saskatchewan at the time, but I learned quickly that he was a great owner and would have been if he was able to continue for years, I think, because he was doing it for the right reasons. It wasn't really about his celebrity, although he was leveraging his celebrity and trying to bring his friends from Hollywood to come and entertain at halftime and things like that. But it was that he truly loved the Argos. He truly loved the game. His family still does, and followed it, tried to learn as much as he could when he was an owner. When I walked up to introduce myself to him, he not only knew who I was playing safety for Saskatchewan at the time, but he knew my statistics.
Come on.
We faced them fairly early in that 91 season. And that was a star-studded team. Rocket Ishmael and Matt Dunnigan was their quarterback. Pinball was, their coach. This was a very good football team. And you look at Candy walking up to me, and I thought he wouldn't even know who I was, like, let alone that I was playing for Saskatchewan. He knew my position. He knew the stats. He knew what I did the year before. He talked about how we played a certain style of defense that was going to make it interesting. Now, the Argos beat us back-to-back that year in 91. I remember those were two very bad games. One in particular was very bad game. I think it was 60-10 or something.
Ouch.
Yes. But I had this conversation with Candy thinking, this guy knows the game. He's learning the game. He's understanding. He's actually, I think he was scouting our defense. So, I just, great respect for a guy who 27 years ago today passed away. But it was a cool year in 1991, and the Argos went on to win the championship in a freezing cold Winnipeg Stadium.
I'm just trying to pull up. Here you go. 37-35 loss at home, and then 62-10 at Toronto.
My goodness.
Then you guys, what was happening back in that season, Suits? The next game was 50-47 against BC, 44-41, 49-41.
The Oaklanders didn't show up for that game, or what?
We weren't good. We weren't good. I think we won 5 games or 6 games that year, something like that. I can't remember.
12.
Yeah. So it was one of those years, but it was a cool year. But again, I'm not sure that the celebrity of the situation was why the Argos. It was a fun year to see. It wasn't like they were selling out the Sky Dome because of it. They had good crowds, really good crowds, but in comparison. But John Candy was a good owner for the right reasons, not because he was a celebrity. The story is fantastic. What I really kind of wanted as a fan of the movie Uncle Buck was for him to walk up to an opposing player, flip you a quarter, and go, "Have a rat, gnaw that thing off your foot," and then walk away. That would have been amazing. John Candy was so funny. So I can what we would think of him now, 27 years later in the movies.
Mayor Tommy Shanks.
Yeah. The movies he would have done between then and now, we have lost an absolute treasure.
DT, I went up to him thinking to myself, how am I going to be preparing for this football game and asking for an autograph at the same time? This is going to be really weird.
Exactly. I almost forgot, Zinger. Thank you for reminding me. Suits, we got a jersey to give away. I just about blanked on this. Zinger, hit me up. Trivia question that we'll give to folks.
Yeah, today's trivia question is, first of all, the number is to dial 306-936-6262, 866-767-0620. Today's question is, we're sticking in the Glenn Suter era. Which American-based CFL franchise was the first to play the Riders at Taylor Field? Which American-based CFL franchise was the first team to play the Riders at Taylor Field? So once again, give me a call, 306-936-6262, toll free 866-767-0620.
Suits, do you know?
Well, I remember, I don't know if it was our first game, but I remember the Sacramento Gold Miners game where they were, the fans in Taylor Field were on the grass, it was jam-packed And we won in the final seconds of that game, and the crowd hit the field. It was like you were a rock star if you were out there. It was super cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, Suits, thank you so much, my friend. We got to bail out. We'll get into off season when you join us
Yes.
on Monday.
Okay, thanks, guys.